We're starting a new series today called The Balanced Life. And on this 4th of July, do you have any balance?
Hey, you don't ask about balance, especially regarding food on the 4th of July. We go big or we go home. We do big fireworks.
Well, we go home big.
Big plates, yes. Big burgers, all the things, which is one of our favorite days to celebrate as a family because everybody comes home. And we've probably, like many of you, have been gearing up our backyards to get it, summer ready. And something about the 4th of July, everybody goes into freak out zone. And if you've been at your local Home Depot, you know this to be true because everything is gone and the lines are long. And it's like we feel like we have to have like this moment in our backyard.
So after all these years of being out of our old house where we had a nice pool and a jacuzzi, we decided to pull the trigger and get a jacuzzi.
Yes.
And we thought, 4th of July will be so great, but it's not in yet.
I know. So we haven't told the kids that or they might not show up. We're actually recording this day before 4th of July.
Yeah.
So,
well, by the way, we are Tim and Kimberly Scott. This is Hope Rescue Podcast, and we're glad that you're with us. And as I said at the top, we're starting a new series called The Balanced Life.
I'm excited about this one.
The reason we're doing this is because obvious that, if you can balance your life, your whole purpose and meaning and happiness and joy, all of that comes together with that. That doesn't mean that everything in your life will be perfect, but it does mean that you can be free from the great struggles of life and enjoy life at its fullest. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, and how to balance that. I feel like I was just talking with one of our daughters this morning that we all struggle to feel like we are out of balance. Yeah. And I think that is there are what we're going to be sharing is some foundational tools to try to do your best to navigate balance. But that being said, I feel like it's important to say that it is normal, completely normal, to feel like you are not perfectly balanced in every part of your life, and that
that's okay.
It's okay. And I feel like, what happens is the pendulum swings. So we feel out of balance in one area and we tend to try to compensate. And the key is that you don't swing too far the other direction, but we're constantly trying to get more towards the middle if possible. And that to me is my definition of balance, is that you get enough things going in your life and some of the tools we're talking about, it'll make you feel like, I have a better balance in my life.
So one day I was driving my car. I had a nice car. I'd actually bought it for my father. He couldn't afford it anymore for whatever reason. And he needed to kind of downsize. He's retired and so forth. So I bought his car. It's not a car I would have bought for myself.
What kind of car?
It was an Oldsmobile.
Yeah, baby.
Come on,
rolling
that's old
deep.
School. Yeah, I bought it from a retired man.
I'm envisioning you had burgundy.
No.
Vinyl seats.
No. It had very nice leather seats. It was really upgraded. He got it from a friend who, it was a very nice upgraded car.
Okay.
I've forgotten the model, but it was an Oldsmobile. Mm-hmm. And it was just had everything in it, cassette player.
No, an 8-track player.
That's what I mean, an 8-track cassette player.
and like a big Pimp Daddy
Tim car. It wasn't that old ago, but it did have a cassette player, just the newer one. Uh-huh. But anyway, I'm driving down the road and I'm like, what is wrong with this car? So I took it in and I said, I think it's out of alignment. And they checked the alignment, go, no, your alignment is great. I said, well, something's wrong. And they said, well, actually, you have 2 of your tires are out of balance.
Okay.
And it's causing this kind of a rougher ride. And the thing about it is that Oldsmobile from the 1970s was this really heavy car. And it had the most amazing ride. It was, one of those, it was like a town car. It was just beautiful ride. But this out of balance tire, 2 of them, were affecting that kind of ride. Anyway, I got those rebalanced, and it was almost nothing to have that done. But what a difference that made in the journey, when we're traveling.
That's
and
good.
So, trying to find that balance. What we want to use as a metaphor is this metaphor of a wheel. It's interesting. Our youngest child, Gracie, is turning 21 this year, and she said, hey, Dad, I want to know how to change a tire. I said, well, you can be just like everybody else and call AAA. That's why I bought her. She has AAA membership, so she didn't have to do it. And the reality is, so I don't have to drive at in the middle of the night, go pick her up and change. But changing a tire is very, very simple. But I want you to go back in your mind to this metaphor of a wagon wheel.
Mm-hmm. So, the old school wagon wheels.
That was
the ones where they went out on the frontier in the West. Yeah.
And the way those things were made, they were actually pretty sturdy. For if you think about the trails that they went on, they were pretty sturdy. But there were two major problems with wagons. One was called the tongue of that's where it went out to, attach to the horses and so forth. That broke oftentimes, but most often the wheels broke. And so what they would do is carry extra wheels, usually two.
Oh, okay.
And they would also carry an extra tongue for the front of that. But when they changed, sometimes there were so many wheels that were damaged, they had to actually replace or repair those.
Yeah.
So they brought tools, and they brought tools. They were the same kind of tools that you would use to build a house. So they needed those anyway.
Sure, and they're made out of wood.
Yeah, and they're made out of wood.
Yeah.
And what that did, in order for the wheel to work properly, the spokes had to be at the right angle. They had to be at the right distance. They had to be exactly the same. And then the wheel around those spokes that attached to the hub were banded by metal. Doesn't sound very good, but they did have kind of a spring system on the axle. But the reality was that in order to find real balance, you had to travel with ways to fix those spokes. So what I want you to do is visualize a wheel and your balance in your life as 8 spokes
in a wheel
on that wheel. And those 8 spokes go from the hub, the center of who you are, out to the wheel so that you can get to that destination and have what we'll call the integrity, balanced integrity to your life. You're not going to have balance integrity without these 8 spokes. And we're going to give you those in just a moment.
And they support one another. So that's
Absolutely.
The beauty is that these 8 spokes in a balanced life, you may be weak in one, but that's what you'll find out as we discover this together is that they all support one another. So if you have all of them, even if one is a little weaker, there is an integrity to your life that stays strong and secure.
Yeah, so one of the things that we had talked about in preparation for this series is how to prioritize your life. And a lot of people, the reason they find imbalance in their life is because they don't prioritize. So I broke it down. Years ago, I did a leadership training for the people that were under my supervision. And I really talked about 3 things in prioritizing life. Number 1 is to do the things. When I say do the things, it's the details of life.
Right.
If you don't do the things in life, like do the dishes. Sometimes you can let those wait, but do the dishes or
the basic necessities.
Yeah. Wash your clothes, make your bed. Brush your teeth. Just
change
the
the
essential.
Oil on your car.
Change the diaper on your child.
Yeah.
And those things you have to do the things,
Do
whatever
the
it
things.
is. You have to get up. You have to get moving.
The
and
necessities.
So forth. The necessities. And the second thing in prioritizing your life is you have to eliminate the distractions, things, really good things that take away from the best thing.
That's good.
So there are good things that will be the enemy of the great. They always say the good is the enemy of the great. They being Jim Collins, who said that.
Such a good statement.
And it's, the enemy of the great is the good. So if you get focus too much on those good things, you might miss the great things. So that leads to the final thing in prioritizing your life, and that is focus on the essential. What is that essential thing? Not the essentials, plural, but the essential thing. And prioritize that. Make that priority your focus. So, of course, do the things, eliminate the distractions, but focus on the most important or essential thing that's bringing you to that goal. In order to have a balanced life, there are 8 spokes, and we want to give those to you now, and then we'll talk about the importance.
Yeah, and just want to throw in before
Yeah.
I do that and just say that, be careful, because what looks essential to you may not be the essential to someone else. So
Yeah.
it's really dangerous to get into the comparison game or devalue someone's version of what's essential. So everybody, including spouses, need to have the freedom to be able to have what's essential for them.
Yeah, and probably unpacking that is important because like Kimberly was saying, that you have to understand that your calling gives you what is essential, not somebody else's calling.
Right.
Your race is your race, not somebody else's race. And
Race
that
in life.
we were talking yesterday. I don't remember what I said, but Kimberly reminded me and reminded whoever would listen that if you want to ruin a good thing, compare it to something else. And that is really true.
Yeah.
If you compare your life to somebody else's, you're going to be imbalanced for sure.
Absolutely. So we came up with a list of 8 things we consider essential, regardless whatever your unique purpose and essential thing is for your life. These are 8 tools that are essential to help you be able to
maybe categories would be best.
Categories, to find better balance in your life. And the first is your mind. The second is your emotions. The third is your spirit. The fourth is your body. The fifth is the social part of your life. 6 is your finances. 7 is your unique purpose. And 8 is your home, your place of safety, your house, your family, whatever you consider to be home for you.
Yeah, and if you're single, your home. Let's just kind of unpack those real quickly. When we talk about the mind, we're talking about how you think. How do you process information? When we talk about the emotions, we're talking about your feelings, of course, and the spirit is your spiritual awareness of God, and not just some kind of airy-fairy spirituality, but a real concrete understanding of who God is and how he's interacting in your life. Your body, your physicality. If your body is out of whack, but your thinking is good, there's going to be you're going to have imbalance. Each one of these are essential to make that wheel. That's our metaphor. The wheel roll. So these are all spokes that give balanced integrity to the wheel. Socializing.
Yes.
Do you have friends?
Right.
And I don't mean do you have 10 friends or 15 friends. Do you have, we were talking the other day, if you have one really good friend, you're really blessed.
You're winning.
If you have 3 friends, you're really blessed. If you have 15 friends, you don't. And we shared that a couple of weeks ago, but it's important. You don't have 15 intimate friends. That would be very unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you do.
It's possible, but
I know
unusual.
if for someone that is really has a balanced life, they have 2 or 3 people in their life, at least one that is an intimate friend who is safe, who can handle things in your life and you can handle it in their life, and there's a give and take. So that's it. Social, the financial. Obviously, if your finances are out of whack, we live in a material world, and you really need to get that balance. Purpose in your life. What is your career? What drives who you are and what you do? And then your home, as Kimberly said, is that safe place. And you can be single and you're safe, but when you close that door to your house, you want to feel safe and you want to have a place where you can interact with people that make you feel safe. So that is really important. So we just want to deal with the mind today.
So we're going to just go through these in 8 separate episodes today, starting with the mind, so that we can give each one the time and intention that it needs to be able to dive in. So
obviously, when you're thinking about the mind, you're talking about thinking, and we just want to share a few thoughts about that. The first one is this: extreme thinking, like all or nothing, will lead to extreme outcomes.
Yes.
So it's just like, that black or white, all or nothing, I'm in or I'm out, that kind of thinking destroys your relationships, because if the person is imperfect, then you have to reject them. But it really destroys self, because this all or nothing thinking is I'm either all right or I'm all wrong. I'm either, it's a toggle switch.
It's
I'm
all
either
good.
light
It's
or
all
dark.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's deadly. And unfortunately, I was raised, whether consciously or subconsciously, my parents raised me to think like that, black or white, very all or nothing. I don't even think they said it. Maybe I just caught that and they didn't say that. But
There's so
I
much
don't
of
wanna
life
blame
is in
them.
the gray areas, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
Oh,
And
my
your
goodness.
ability to deal with others. I was just talking to my younger brother Phil, and we were talking about how, when you look at the life of your children and your grandchildren and you see extremes you don't like or things you disagree with, you have to live in that gray area.
Yeah.
You have to accept that you don't agree on everything. And it's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So if you really want balanced thinking, you can't go with this all or nothing. There has to be that gray area.
Right. And then the inability to be present in the moment.
Who would ever do that?
Yeah, what a thief that can be of our lives and rob us of the most precious moments. And it's something, I don't care what personality type you have, it's something that everybody struggles with. Some it comes more natural to, but the truth is that most of us spend our time focusing on what has been or what's coming down the road. And in the meantime, we lose the ability to savor the present.
Yeah, when you go to the past to reminisce and enjoy, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, God said that He
Build
wanted the
memorials,
children
remember?
build memorials. Build when they crossed the Jordan. He wanted a memorial there, so that when the children came by, they said, "This is where God did this miracle." So there's nothing wrong with looking
Right.
back. Here's the problem: is when we look back with regret. And believe me, I have some things that I look back at, and they torture me in the present when I allow them to.
Rob you of the present.
Yeah, I was just talking to a counselor, and he was saying, for whatever reason, you've chosen to struggle. And it seems to me that you almost like it. And we unpack that, and I thought that's really true. I think when I struggle, it's not that I like struggling, it's that I think that if I struggle, I'm fixing. And so I'm trying to fix the past. Two things, I should just accept it and release it.
This is a whole episode,
Yeah,
and I'm
there
here
really
for
is.
it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I got a little sidetracked
So
unpacking
good.
that. But then we look at the future and we're afraid of the future. So we're out of the moment, either with regret or fear in the future.
Or you're dreaming only in the future.
Yeah.
If only I could, and I'm going to accomplish this, or I'm going to have this someday. It's all in the future.
Instead of
so
being grateful.
you can't stay present and grateful for
that's
what
good.
God has done today in your life and what you have to be grateful for today. That's good, babe. That's really good. The other thing about another sign of an imbalanced mind is being focused on the worst case scenarios. Oh my gosh, that's
Catastrophizing.
Yeah, and to be fair, those who have experienced trauma, which we all have if we're taking in oxygen, there is a natural bent to want to go there. Well, what if this happens? And so you stay stuck in living in this place again, like a fear of the worst case scenarios happening in your life. The next is the inability to connect meaningfully with others. And that's a bigger struggle today than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Given what we've been through in our world in the last few years, people, signing off of person to person relationships and going more remote in their workplaces, in schooling, and the disconnect and creating relationships through being online. Not saying that can't be real to a certain degree, but it's created this inability to meaningfully connect in community.
I think it's important. There is some connection through texting, through FaceTime and so forth, but I think there's something about being knee to knee with somebody and really connecting on that face-to-face, to mix a metaphor there.
Yeah.
But the idea is, to really be present with somebody.
Right.
A couple of other things, when your thinking is out of balance, when you are not only not able to connect with people, as Kimberly was saying, but you're not able to be productive, or you're not able to sleep, or you don't eat properly. When your thinking is out of whack, you don't eat enough, or you eat too much, or you eat the wrong things. I'll tell you, when I'm out of whack, I love, salt then sugar, then salt, then sugar, then salt, then savory, then sweet, savory, then sweet. And, I know that it's really difficult. And then the last thing, just these are ways to check whether you're in balance or not, or out of balance. An imbalanced mind can be seen with what's called toxic positivity. And toxic positivity is a podcast in itself, and maybe a couple of them. We talk about toxic masculinity, toxic anger, toxic relationships, toxic hostility, but toxic positivity, not easy for me to say for some reason. It becomes toxic. Positivity becomes toxic when we're unable to deal with the realities of life. There are negative things in life that must be addressed and dealt with, and positivity, kind of a overly Pollyanna, right? Where everything's the positive game. It's just everything's happy, and you can't hear the negative. And when that's the reality of your life, it becomes toxic. It becomes unhealthy. And when your thinking is so positive that you can't deal with struggles, you have gone too far. So
I feel
these
like
are some ways to see the imbalance.
That often is rooted in a trauma response of disconnecting, disassociating from your emotions. And so, some people do it in a really negative way, and that's drugs, alcohol, whatever they can to be able to numb out from pain from the past or the present. And then others go into this ethereal, sort of like Pollyanna, put your head in the sand kind of thing. And either one of those is lack of balance.
I would say for somebody who leans critical and negative, which I do, and I don't like it about me. A lot of people don't like it about me, but I don't like it about me. But I know my wife is very positive. But for me to think she's being too positive when in fact I'm actually being too negative, and I'm being too critical. I'm not real critical of her, but criticizing life and criticizing people and criticizing situations can just be so overwhelming that a person that wants to live in a healthy world is saying that's enough. And that's not what I'm talking about when we talk about toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is when you can't deal with negativity.
Right.
But when somebody is overly negative, and you have to understand that there are going to be people that are going to push away from you if that's what you do. So again, that could be a big topic.
Yeah.
So let's get into 3 ways. What do we have?
We have like 3 ways in just a couple more minutes to be able to jump into it. So the first is the power of directed thinking. So your thinking doesn't happen to you. You actually determine what you think, and that we can direct our thinking, that we have the power to be able to. Oftentimes we feel like, helpless to the direction that our mind goes, but we know scientifically it's proven that we create the neural pathways in our brain of how we think. And if you're intentional, you can recreate those pathways in your brain to go a different direction. But the key is the intentionality.
Yeah. And think of focus on your thinking as this. It's not happening to you. You are actually thinking. You are determining the way you think. And I think I believe that many of us have a tendency to be lazy thinkers. And a lazy thinker is someone who does not go, I am done with this struggle. I am going to lean into the gratitude. And so you force yourself with intentional focus on that which is good and right. And that gets to this next area, and that's the power of gratitude.
Right.
And this cannot be overstated how important this is. The cure for anxiety is gratitude. In fact, the cure for most mental health issues is found in gratitude.
Yes.
And let me read this scripture, Philippians chapter 4, verse 6. Do not be anxious for anything, but in everything, in prayer and supplication, and here it is, with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. Now, you can request what you want. You can say, this is my desire. But gratitude says, God, I am satisfied with what you've already provided. And then it says, and the peace of God, which surpasses understanding, will guard. It will literally be like a guard to your minds in Christ Jesus, your hearts and minds. So your emotions, your mind will all be guarded if, here's the caveat, if you're grateful in your prayer requests. You can go to God and request things, but if you aren't grateful for what you have, you're going to be miserable after prayer.
Good. That's good. So, and just a practical way to do that, of course, would be to journal. Journal the things that you're grateful for every morning. We've talked about this or every day. Off and on for years, since we've started this podcast, the power of writing down the things you're thankful for. And I would just say this, the things that you've prayed for, that you've seen God answer those prayers, how often do we not actually, once he's answered a prayer, acknowledge it? Like not just in gratitude to the Lord, but actually writing that down. He answered my prayer. That's building a memorial to his faithfulness in your life.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed that Kimberly did, and I've kind of caught this from her, is if we're driving down the road and we see an accident, Kimberly always prays for the person. When somebody is going through a difficult time, she'll pray for them. And today, without getting into too much detail, there was a homeless person in the coffee shop I was in, and I'm being a little critical because of the sense of entitlement and so forth. And I even got on the phone and said something I called Kimberly and we talked a little bit, and I just realized that I'm just being critical, and I thought, I need to pray for this lady, and I did, and it changed my attitude and resets my mind. So the other thing that you can do about the power of gratitude is encourage people who are struggling to see things that are beneficial in their life. So just for the sake of time, let me move to the last one, and that is the power of positive thinking. And I don't mean the Norman Vincent Peale. Most of you don't know who I'm talking about. The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, or, kind of the Robert Schuller approach to positive thinking. I'm good enough, the Smalley from SNL, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Yeah. Well, it's more intense than that. And if you read Philippians
4:8 is what we're talking about. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's any worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you.
So there's a promise for this powerful presence of God when we focus on the realities of the good things. So I encourage you to read, because we don't have any more time to unpack this, but read Philippians 4:8 and take each one of those: honorable, just, pure, lovely, and really focus on those things. Find those things in your life. So thanks for being with us. Next week, we're going to talk about emotions and this balanced living. Thanks for listening to Hope Rescue Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.